Hey everybody, welcome to Down Home Backyard Gardening. I'm standing out here today, and I was walking out here yesterday or the day before, thinking, what did I learn this spring that I do not want to do again next spring? And I thought, I'm going to sit here, really think about this, write down some points on things I don't want to do next year, and I want to share them. So, let's do it. All right, so if y'all been watching this channel for any length of time, you know I show everything. Successes, failures, screw-ups, experiments, I mean everything. I don't try to keep anything hidden from you all because I think we should all share what we learn and what we do wrong. Only makes sense to me. So right off the bat, I made a massive mistake moving this. This is the fairy garden that, as y'all know, my daughter and I put together probably 5-6 years ago. And I used to have it over in that corner, but I decided to move it out here so I could utilize that corner more. Well, I wasn't thinking that the sun would just bake all these plants to death. I thought I'd get some heat-loving plants, put them in here, and they'd be fine. They're not. They're not. This right here, moving it out here into this part of the garden, backyard, was an absolute mistake. So this will be a project to move back where I had it in the fall. And I'm not looking forward to it because I broke it when I moved it out here the first time. But my idea was just simply to be able to utilize that corner more. But the problem with that corner is I don't really have a lot of room in there. So I'm just gonna put the wheelbarrow back over there in the fall, maybe in the winter, and allow Fern Gully to blow back up again in the spring. So that was point number 7. Stop messing with things that are working. Don't reinvent the wheel. Squashes or zucchinis in the spring, and here's why. Okay, so squash plants, and I have a ton of zucchini plants down there. They're all big, healthy. I mean, look at them. They're thriving. They're doing good. They're putting on a fruit there that'll probably die because the one below it died. And there's another small one there. My point is, I can't seem to grow anything in zucchinis or squashes in the springtime. So far this year, I've had 1 zucchini, and it was a good size zucchini, and 2 squashes, and they were both good size. But for the amount of real estate that these plants take up, I mean, just seriously, look at how big these squash plants are, and look how far out this squash plant is. And then coming down here, all of this right here are zucchini plants. And again, I've only had 1 zucchini, and they're taking up, what is this, 8 to 10 feet of real estate that I could totally have other crops in here. So is I'm going to plant 1 squash plant and 1 zucchini plant in one specific area, and that's it. And I'm going to surround them with mothball water to make sure they're safe. And I'm just going to test and see if just 1 plant of each actually produces more of a yield than having, what is this, 12 plants that have produced 3 vegetables. So that will be number 6. I don't think I'm doing squash and zucchinis anymore in the spring. Plus, in the spring, you have more pests because the moth borers are coming out of hibernation and out of the winter soils and all that, and they're just bombarding everything. So I think I'm going to focus strictly with zucchini and squash in the falls. I've seemed to have had way better success with these plants in the fall. So that's number 6. Number 5 is something you think that as my 3rd spring is coming on, I would have been better prepared for. But I didn't properly think out the layout this year. And I really thought I did. Like, I think I even did a video on this subject, and I still don't feel that I did a good job in the layout or the proper layout of this garden. So next, and let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm just going to take this bed for example. Now, as you can see right here, a few months ago, this is what the bed looked like. And now this is what the bed looks like. And at first glance, you're probably like, hey man, that looks good to go. We've got the single seed challenge plants right over here that have done just fantastic. We've got eggplants in here that have really finally starting to take off. And we got these cow these, and then we have these Red Ripper cowpeas right here that are just everywhere. And I mean, look at this. They were all the way over here until last night, and I pushed them all back over that way. So just in this bed alone, I feel I could have totally utilized just this little bit of space a lot better. I could have put all of these, considering how well they're growing, over there on those trellises that go up the wall, because that's why I built them, was literally for this reason right here. And then that I feel I've overstacked this bed, and I haven't utilized just this bed alone enough. So I'm going to seriously really prepare next spring's garden a lot better, for sure. And I've already started doing that, learning this lesson right now for this summer. I've started putting out all the summer stuff, and we're rocking and rolling with summer. And I'm yanking out the spring stuff that needs to go. But that's number 5. Properly preparing your layout for your garden, I think, is so important. And again, I thought I did a good job, but really standing out here and really dissecting and looking at everything, I don't think I did. I mean, look how good everything's growing. Everything's growing great. But what am I talking about? This bed, last fall, I decided that this spring would become the melon bed. Now, I had squash and zucchinis in here last year, this time, and they did okay. But I wanted this bed specifically for this spring to be melons. So I've got 4 or 5 different types of melons in here, and they're all doing really good. I mean, obviously, look at that. Look at all that green. Things are growing. I mean, look, I've got a small melon right there. We've got where'd the good size one? We've got a ripe one right there. Tons of these Kahari melons growing. I mean, here's another one right there. They're just growing everywhere in here. Okay, but as you can see, this bed is just doing so good. But what I did is I planted a ton of seeds of the 4 or 5 different melons that I have in here, and I just let them all go. One, I wanted to do an experiment and just see how much would grow and how bad it would look, how overflowing it would be if I just let everything grow. Well, everything's growing. The soil is so super good that just everything is growing. So next year, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the exact same thing. I'm gonna plant a ton of seeds next year, but I'm gonna thin them out. I did not thin them out at all this year. Next year, I'm gonna start thinning out crops. Now, I've had an issue thinning them out because as a gardener, when you're growing stuff and stuff is growing, you don't wanna kill it, right? Because you're like, man, it's growing. Kind of want it to grow. But this is too much. And what this is doing is causing the melons not to fully get to the size that they should be. They're stunted because all the vines are fighting for water and nutrients and everything. So next year, I'm going to start thinning things out. And I'm not just talking the melons. We're talking everything. I'm going to thin out the crops. What's the point in having all of this if your yields are super small? I'd rather have less growth of vines and larger crops than vice versa. Make sense? So that's number 4. I'm going to start thinning everything out. Okay, the next 3 points are all going to be about tomatoes, because tomatoes are the rock stars of the gardening world, especially spring and summer. So we're going to focus the next 3 points on tomatoes. And point number 3, I think I went overboard. All right, so here we go. This entire bed, if this is the first time y'all have seen this channel, these are all indeterminate tomatoes, which means they're just going to grow and grow and grow. That's why some of these are way tall here, way up above the trellis system. But what I decided to do is I did 3 plants of each tomato type in here. There's 9 different tomato types in here. I've got everything from orange accordions to green zebras to some black tomatoes over here, just all kinds of different tomatoes in here. Now, I've had absolutely no success at all with any tomato that is considered a black tomato or like a purple Cherokee. No success. at all. And I thought, you know, I'm going to give it a shot this year. Why not? They should really grow. Well, this is a black tomato right here. This is a black creme tomato plant. All it's done is grow. And it's not even tall. Here's the exact same plant, really not doing anything. And there's another one of them right here, laid over, not doing anything. They have not produced a single tomato. And I'll be honest, I don't even think they produced a single flower. So, number 3 is really simple. Know which plants grow best for you, and don't plant the other ones that don't. I decided to constantly keep rolling the dice on planting and thinking, oh, they're all going to take off, they're going to do great. And I have just had certain plants, tomato plants, that have just not done anything. They've grown, but they haven't produced a single flower, let alone a tomato. So I think number 3 is really important. Know the plants that are going to grow for you and focus on those. Next year, I am going to focus heavily on the plants that have really done great this year. So next year, I'm not just gonna go all crazy and throw out a whole bunch of different tomatoes. I'm still gonna have a lot of tomato plants, but they're gonna be the ones that actually produce. So that is number 3, for sure. Okay, so number 2 is gonna piggyback off of number 3, and that's really simply make sure that when you're growing your starts, you have enough room in your garden for everything that you're starting. Let me explain. I grew so many tomatoes and I went so crazy on tomatoes, I literally didn't have room for all of them. And I thought I did. I thought when I laid it out in my mind, I'd have this amount of tomatoes for this bed and I'd be good. I wasn't. Not at all. I had to put stuff everywhere. So, and let me give you an example of just exactly what I'm talking about. So right here, these are orange peach tomatoes. And these things are doing so good. I mean, look at all the tomatoes that are growing. The problem is that these are indeterminate tomatoes. They should be trellised like these, but they're not because I didn't have room in this bed. So I had to throw them over there where they're just laid over. They're not doing as well as they should be doing if I had properly planned and planted them where they should be. So number 2 is just simply make sure that when you're growing your starts that you have the room in your garden for the plants that you're growing from seed. There's no sense, and I'm a little annoyed at myself, but there's no sense in spending all that time planting a seed in a cell, watching it grow, nurturing it, up potting it as it gets bigger, just to have no room or no home for it when it comes time to actually getting it in the garden. So, okay, so number 1 might surprise everyone, especially considering how well this bed is doing. I mean, we got tomatoes growing. Look behind me, the bed looks great, right? It could be even better though. Should always be thinking, what can we do, even in your successes, to make them even more successful? And for me, I started my seeds late. And I thought I started them at a good time. I started all of my seed starts on January 15th, thinking I had 6 weeks before the last expected frost date here in the Houston area, and then I'd get them in the ground. Y'all, as good as this bed looks, it could be even better. It could be so much better, and they could have put on even more fruit than they've already done. I've harvested over 20 pounds of tomatoes this year. That's not a whole lot, but for me, that's the most I've ever harvested ever since I've started gardening, and this is my 3rd spring. So next year, I'm going to start my seeds even earlier than 6 weeks because the heat that has come on so early this year has just stunted all of my tomatoes. This is what I'm talking about right here. These are tomato flowers, and if you look at them, let me get in close here, they're burnt. The sun has burned them. That's how hot it's been. We've had 2 to 3 weeks of triple-digit heat, and I'm talking heat. Plus the humidity here, it's been a nightmare coming outside. But the heat, the sun is just cooking the flowers, and without flowers, you're not gonna have tomatoes. So I think if I start my seeds even earlier than 6 weeks, say 8 weeks, 9 weeks early, and I have even bigger starts, when I get them in the ground, they're going to do even better. They'll start producing sooner. The plants will be stronger, maybe be able to adjust to the heat quicker and produce more fruit. So number one thing that I will absolutely do next year, and this is going to be for all my plants, is I'm going to start them all earlier than what I normally would have done. Now that will require staying on top of the starts, up potting them as they outgrow the seed trays or the little pots that you're going to grow them in. So you're going to have to put in extra work. But I really think, and mark this down, I really think this time next spring, I'm going to have double the tomato harvest or the other vegetables that I'm going to be growing. So number one, start your seeds even earlier than what you would normally do. 7 lessons that I've learned this spring in 2023 that I'm going to start applying across all of my seasons, but especially for next spring. I hope this helps somebody. And if you all have stuff that you learned this year that you are going to change for next year, do us all a favor here on this community. Drop it in the comments. Let us all learn from each other. We can only become better gardeners when we help each other. And I fully believe that, 100%. Until next time, everyone, take care. God bless. Continue to shine bright and harvest hard. Get in your garden. Get in your garden. Get out there and get dirt in your nails and sweat. I'll talk to y'all again real soon. Bye. Oh my God. That melon was ripe yesterday. And look at it now. Something got it. Doggone it. Oh, I'm so mad. Super mad about this. That melon was perfectly ripe yesterday. And I left it on the vine for one more day. And another rat came in here last night and got it. Because that's what happened. Now, I killed 2 rats yesterday. Big rats. And now I've got another one in here. Just taking up, just doing the same doggone thing. Y'all, it's war. I'm at war now. I'm really mad. That's 2 good-sized melons these little punks have got. Now, I know everyone who's like, oh, the rats are just trying to survive. Yes, I get it. But we as gardeners are also trying to grow stuff for people. People come before animals, especially before rats. So if y'all don't like that, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry, but pests are pests. When a mosquito bites me, I'm killing it. It's that simple. A rat gets in my house, I'm killing it. A roach gets in my house, I'm annihilating it. Ugh. I think what I'm going to do next spring. I don't know what kind of bug that is. That is the first time I have ever seen that. But I'm going to leave it alone till I know what it is. Okay, so if you all have been watching this channel for any, as I walk into a spider web, are you kidding me? Nature. Okay.